People do not have to respect your boundaries. If you know me, you know that I'm a proponent of boundaries. I talk about it all the time. I've done a whole series here on the podcast about boundaries. But I get these questions all the time. But what if? What if they don't do this? What if they don't do what I want? People don't have to respect your boundaries. No one does. You have to respect your boundaries. You're the only one that has to respect your boundaries. Nobody else has to do it. And so, but I don't want you to get stuck on that. I want you to track with me. Every relationship have good boundaries, but people don't have to respect your boundaries. So what does that leave us with? Lots of discomfort. A lot of discomfort. If people don't respect my boundaries, then what happens next? What happens next is up to you. What happens next? So let's talk about it. What are boundaries? Boundaries are limits that we set for ourselves, or it's a protection that we have around ourselves. We have protection around our possessions, our intellect, our bodies, our our home, our families, our marriages, our money, other resources. Everything gets protected. That those the things that protects them are called our boundaries. Now, our boundaries are influenced by our values. And so it's always important to understand, what are my values? Our values are the things that are important to us. We learn our values from society, from our families, from our culture, from sometimes our faith. Those are the things that teach us our values. we I suggest, and I think this is my belief, that our values are changing all the time. We are learning as we grow, and as we learn more about ourselves, then our value system are changing. It's adjusting all the time. So that means our boundaries will also adjust. So they're set in stone in so much as we know enough about ourselves that they are this at this time. There are other times when our boundaries will shift because we're getting to know more about ourselves. It doesn't mean that it will expand to the place where we let unhealthy people in. It doesn't mean that. But it means that some things that are not bounded for you right now, you might want them bounded next month or next week as you're learning more about yourself. So the way that, and as you grow, say for example, your finances are bounded, and you had a job that you earn a certain amount of money, and you bounded your finances, but you left that job. So there were certain things that you could do. You left that job and you're starting a business, and resources are not as available as they were before. So there are different kind of boundaries now that are going to be around your finances. So then the business grow, and you might want to reestablish your boundaries again, around finances, around how much can I give, who am I giving to, and to what causes am I giving, right? You might want people to meet some requirements to receive money from you, because now you can give to charity and you can give some more. And you might want, if somebody wants money for a business, you might want a business plan and all of those kind of things. So the boundaries are changing all the time as you grow and as you change. So in your relationships, it might look like this. In your relationships, you start out in a relationship when you were not healed. You had some trauma, you hadn't resolved them, you hadn't done any work around it. And so people that had access to certain things about you, conversations that you used to have, certain people that you were friendly with or tried to develop relationships with, they were allowed. But as you're growing, you're realizing that, okay, so this is changing about me, and I no longer want to have those kind of conversations. So that's a boundary that you're putting in that wasn't there before. Or you are not talking about certain subjects, but you're still conversating with the people. So that's a boundary that you put in. Now, sometimes these boundaries are communicated where you'll say, I'm no longer comfortable talking about that, or I'm no longer listening to those things, watching those things, reading those books. And so you're realizing that as you learn more about yourself, that I'm changing, and my values are changing. And so my boundaries are changing too. So those are ways that as we grow, our boundaries will change. Sometimes we're afraid of the growth because it means the boundaries are changing, and we feel, and this is a feeling, it's not grounded in facts, but we feel it, and so it prevents us from growing. Because what we calculate is, if I grow and my values change, my boundaries change, then the people who love me will leave. And that is because we have abandonment issues that are unresolved. That's why we're feeling like, if I assert myself, if I become confident, if I grow in understanding of myself and my values, my boundaries will change and people will leave. That's a that's an idea that we have, that as again, that's not grounded in facts. It is not grounded in reality. Nobody has done it before, but there's a fear that we have because we have abandonment issues probably beneath the surface. We struggle with rejection and abandonment, so we stay away from growth, or we engage with it sporadically or half-heartedly. We don't put our whole selves in it because we're afraid that people will leave. And I promise you, if you allow yourself the room to do the growth and expansion, people might leave. That's true. I can't tell you that people won't leave. People might leave, but it's only to make room for the people that are aligned with where you are now. And the people who grow with you, they will stay. They're not moving. The people who are also growing will stay. So the fear is sometimes, what if it's the relationship that I value? What if it's my husband? What if it's my wife that leaves? What if the children no longer think I am okay or cool because you're shedding people pleasing, as we did in the last conversation? What if those things happen? Well, what if they don't? They might not. Don't allow yourself to limit yourself, because you are sometimes we're projecting into the future. We're mind reading, and we're assuming, and these are distortions, cognitive distortions, right? So we're assuming what people will do if we do. If we do this, they will do that. So I must do this, so they must do that. And we have this rule that we have subconsciously, that we're living by, that says if I make these moves, then people will make that one, and that's not true. People don't do anything based on us. People do it because they want to. People do it because they want to. I want you to remember that. So as you're allowing yourself to grow and your values are changing, and don't be afraid of your values changing. That is just life, because we're growing. Even as you're growing in Christ, you're learning more about Him. There's certain things that you believe that you will not believe. There's a lot of stuff that changes for me over the last couple of years as I grow to know myself better, to understand the things that were influencing certain beliefs, as I grow to change the people that I hang around with and talk to, as I grow in understanding really what Christ requires of me, and the other things that people were telling me was not Him, it was just their stuff. As I grow to stand more firmly and solidly in who I am and who I know Him to be, then that changed my values and it changed my boundaries. And it changed a lot of things that feels and look different and more comfortable. So don't be afraid of growth and your values changing. That's how it's going to be. That's life, right? When that doesn't happen, then we're stagnant. And we sometimes, and I know this channel is for people who are Christians and wanting to heal. Sometimes we stay stagnant all the while doing fasting and praying, wanting God to do something that we're not prepared to do. And I've learned this recently, that we give Him a job description and He's going, I can't really do that, because if I do that, I'm not going to be me, and I have to stay true to me. So study me, the blueprint that is me, so you can learn of me and who you need to be. So we give Him this job description because for example, we don't want our values to change because it's grounded in abandonment, and we feel like people will leave. And so we give people these rules that they must live by. We give God these rules that He must live by, and we feel settled, but we're not. And because these things are subconscious, because these rules that we have, they're just ours, and the people who we say must do it, they don't know that they must, and they don't know that they have to do it in order for you to be comfortable. And so this information is only available to you. And so people will do what they do. People are acting according to their values. People are acting according to their beliefs and their convictions. And sometimes that is upsetting to you. You're upset, you're frustrated, you're anxious and depressed because people are living their lives. They're following their script, not yours. Because your script for them is in your thoughts, your mind, grounded in trauma from your past. It's the past that is the past becoming present in your life and your relationships, and people are not, that script is not available to them. And even if it was, they're not following it. They're choosing to not do it. And that's why they don't have to respect your boundaries. Nobody have to do anything. You don't either. And so they're following their script based on their values, based on how they want to live their lives. And that is upsetting to you. That is annoying to you. That's frustrating to you. That is anxious and depression inducing to you when people are just doing what they do. So what options does that leave you with? That you do you. What does that look like? That's not a selfish thing. That is just a knowing thing. So as we started out in this conversation, people don't have to respect your boundaries. So how does that work? When you have this script, you have these rules that they should live by, you're learning how to set boundaries. You set boundaries, but you're not relinquishing, you're not taking back the job description that you've given them. And so you still have these expectations of people that they must do this for me in order for me to feel something. Remember, nobody can make you feel anything, right? So people don't have to do it. They don't have to do anything. So what do you do? What are the options that are available to you when people don't do what you want? When people don't respect your boundaries? So I started out by giving some examples of money as a boundary. And if you, or let's use your intellect then, your time. That's a boundary too. Your time is a boundary. If you have a boundary that says 9 p.m. is the last time I'll take a call, and somebody calls you 9:30, you don't have to answer. That's a boundary. So you might become frustrated and say, I told them not to call me after 9, and they still do. So the response that you have is, but you answered the call. So you broke your own boundary by answering the call. You don't have to answer the call, right? People respect our boundaries when we enforce the boundaries, when we follow through with the boundaries, when we are also respectful of our boundary, when we live our boundaries, then that is how it gets respected. If not, then we you know at work when you do something, when there's a disciplinary action, there are several processes that you follow, then you can choose what that system looks like for you. What's the process? What's the protocol for me when somebody don't respect my boundary? If the boundary is known. Okay, if the boundary wasn't known, maybe you might speak the boundary. You might have to be explicit if it's missed, if the signs are missed, right? If the signs are missed and you speak it, and there's a negotiation that needs to happen because they didn't meaningfully broke your boundary. It, something else is going on for them, life is happening, things are at a place where that's how it working. You have a conversation and you come to an agreement, right? If you have a conversation, an agreement is made and it's broken over time, then you trust the actions. Then you have to trust the actions. And that leaves you with, well, what do I do next? So that's where it becomes uncomfortable because we don't always want to do anything. We want everything to be neat and tidy and comfortable and people to do what they're supposed to do and we do what we're supposed to do and everything is nice. But they don't have to. People have other priorities. And not respecting your boundaries might not necessarily mean that they're abusive or mean, although it does mean that sometimes. But it also might mean that they have other priorities and they can't do that right now. And then that gives you some information around what do you do, what choices are available to you. So what I want to leave you with is when people don't respect your boundaries, you have options and choices that you can follow through with. Those options and choices might not be comfortable to you, but that's something that you need to work through and understand. Why am I uncomfortable when I have to put another boundary in place that protects myself because they're not respecting the ones that I had before, even though they're stated, even though we negotiate, even though we compromise, even though we have conversations. Never compromise on your boundaries, by the way. Even though we negotiate and have conversations and everything is clear, it's still not happening. What's going on for them? It might mean things are going on for them that right now it's not happening, and it's not, might not be malicious or anything like that. you know have conversations and decide for yourself what's going on so that you can make decisions around what happens next. But I invite you not to become frustrated or irritated or angry or choose any of those things, emotions and feelings, when your boundaries are not respected. Just know that you have options that you can explore, and give yourself permission to explore those options so you can arrive at solutions that are right for you, so that you're staying protected and you're staying boundaried and you're safe.